Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Growthentic podcast. This is episode 8 with myself and Shane Chalupa.
Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome to episode 8. We've got another great one in store for you here. Start out with some general updates. We then get into a little bit of time and energy audits, what lights you up and what brings you down as far as energy goes. Particularly, we focused around the business. We talked about some things on my end, which were related to more bookkeeping and mundane tasks. Sam has some things around uh, career growth and coaching on that side. Then we kind of parlayed that into different SOP generation, and then we started weaving in AI like it's seeming we do almost every week. You'll want to definitely hang on into that section, which is in the latter half of the podcast, because we've got a huge tip. If you don't do anything else, please fast forward to the section about AI. There's a huge tip in there about privacy with ChatGPT and how you can adjust your settings if you're paying for ChatGPT to increase your privacy there and kind of cut the tie back to the internet with your data that you're ingesting and feeding into the ChatGPT LLM. So definitely want to listen for that one. And then we talk more about AI and how it can optimize and help boost both your personal life and your professional side of things on your business. There's going to be lots more discussion coming around that. And then we went into at the end a couple big updates. You'll want to stick around. Life sometimes gives you a pretty big kick in the pants, but hey, you got to enjoy every moment, and every day is a blessing. So I hope you'll enjoy this episode with us, and we look forward to connecting.
Thank you all. Hope you enjoy. Sundays are pretty structured for me. I always start my day with going to church. My wife has a pretty hectic day today, so I don't have the car, so I've just been relegated to stay at home, which is fine because my Knicks were playing today. Game 4 at 1 p.m. We came out with a very squeaky, grind out win. Um, and yeah, it was a nail biter, but just an awesome start to the Sunday. Can't ask for more. Got my church in, which is my rock and my foundation, and then just a bonus on top with uh, with the Knicks winning. But yeah, I think just looking at the entirety of the week, especially meeting on a Sunday and kind of catching up on things, it's kind of this interesting frame of like Sunday to Sunday, just revisiting like just kind of the overall ebbs and flow of the full week. I think there's kind of a sweet retrospect that I'm kind of doing right now as we talk. But there's been a lot of just really awesome, like faith based things that I've been encountering for the last week, and just kind of wrapping it all up as I'm meeting up with you right now on a Sunday. It's kind of a fitting conversation, a fitting time, I think.
Yeah, likewise, I felt the same way where a lot of times on Friday, there's that like Friday push with work. And then coming in on a Sunday, totally different mindset coming off of, yeah, family. For me, it's family time and getting outside and quality conversations with Mary, maybe time with friends, things like that. So coming in and get a little bit more of that intersection of the personal side and business, as opposed to Fridays. Usually business is heavy on the mind.
For sure. Do you have one day that you give yourself where you completely, I know it's always hard to like completely disconnect, but maybe it's the Saturday, maybe it's the Sunday. Like, do you give yourself a day where you try your best to commit to, okay, this is purely for non-business related things and just family time? Do you have something like that? And if you do, um, what is it that you normally do, and how do you feel whenever you are able to kind of utilize that day for yourself and your family?
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying still to find that right sweet spot. So I do like to have the mornings to do a little bit of work usually, either that and or gym on the weekends. So for us with the young kids, the weekends are a little bit different because they're not in school, so they're home all day, and that split time or family time with Mary and I kind of managing that. And so usually typically trying to let Mary get out to the gym in person, and then I'll spend some really quality time in the mornings with the girls, and then we'll come back together mid morning, usually try and do something outside or active, or we'll have activities. And then in the afternoon, they'll usually nap or have some downtime. And then Mary and I will work on some stuff around the house. So we definitely have periods of time where we're disconnected from the business. Although I wouldn't say I completely disconnect every day, just because in the early morning, sometimes if I have something that I want to get done or I'm feeling pulled to do it, then I'll go ahead and work on it. And it's usually not too big of a deal. The tough part with finding the balance is like wanting to be so productive and get as much done as your weekday mindset versus weekend and the reality of that. So there's an interesting dichotomy there, because you can't I want to carry in the progress and the momentum of a work week and a work day from a work week. And you just can't quite get that when you have the kids home all day and everything. So just really finding that balance, and also knowing that when I'm working on things, it's things that I'm passionate and excited about and that are going to give me energy. So most of the time it's not a big deal to get that out and make some progress, get some wins. And that always builds more momentum for a fun day to allow me to kind of set work aside and then invest in the family and in Mary and our relationship. So that's how we usually handle the weekends. And I'm still trying to find that ultimate balance. But with kids in the mix, it definitely, I was thinking about it the other day and reflecting, like you were saying about reflecting. It's with the kids, the family, Mary, extended family and friends, and then the business. There's a lot of juggling that goes on. And this past week was one of those scenarios. And you're never going to find that perfect balance. Like things will get out of balance, you'll get closer to imbalance, and it kind of just ebbs and flows. And it's like finding that rhythm where the ebb and flow is about as centered as it can be. And yeah, so that's just something that we're always working on and trying to be more efficient and effective, and um, adding some standardization to help with that and kind of be the most efficient that we can with our time.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that such a blessing though when you said like you get energized from doing a couple of things over the weekend, early morning on a Sunday? Um, I think it's good to have kind of an internal, I mean, in your case, you have Mary to actually talk to about the business. But for anyone out there, even for myself, I think I need to, take some time, every 6 months or every year just to make sure that like I still enjoy doing these things. It's not a drain to me. It's something that energizes me. I still, the why that we talked about a lot in previous episodes, is that why still there? And is that still driving me? And perhaps a good barometer for that is, will you get up early on a Sunday morning to get something done? And how do you feel after doing that? Does it energize you and propel you to have, or propel you to want to even have a better day after getting that done? I think that's something to keep note of, because I do feel that too. Yeah, like on a Saturday morning, I've been doing these like AI automation things on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some side of Saturdays I can't get to it, some I do, but when I do get to it, it feels like wow, I've really helped propel my business forward a little bit today. And that is so exciting. Sometimes more exciting than like getting a deliverable done for a client, because that's something we have to do. Um, but I think something that we need to do is lead our businesses. There's new things happening, both on in your specialty and in my specialty. There's new um, tactics, new trends, um, new software. There's loads of things that we need to responsibly learn about, not get too kind of wrapped up in that shiny object syndrome all the time. But yeah, we need to be doing that. And if that gives us more joy and energy, that's an awesome sign that you're still in it for the right reason.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point about kind of a litmus test is when you have to, or when you're, I guess the way to think about it would be when you're going to bed and thinking about getting up the next day, are you energized to get up maybe a little earlier than usual if you got some extra stuff to get done? Or when you do get into something, does it bring you energy? And there's a few different frameworks out there about auditing your time and energy and where you're spending it throughout the course of a week and a month, and things, highlighting, writing them down each day and then highlighting, okay, what's green, yellow, red, and trying to get rid of the red and eat into the yellow a little bit and maximize the amount of green stuff that's going to bring you energy and is where you're adding the most value to your business, your life, your relationship, your family, and trying to continuously be sorting what you're working on to align all the different energy flows within yourself and kind of the universe out there to say, like, this is my path and I'm in my focus point and in the energy, and you're going to be a lot more excited and energized in all aspects of your life if you're working on things that you're passionate and aligned with. So I I definitely recommend that to folks as you're going throughout your day of like, oh, just stop and think mentally, what's energizing me right now, and am I feeling good about this or not? And if you're not, then mark that down as like, okay, that's something that I should consider figuring out how to maybe reduce or eliminate in my life. And then on the other side, on the good stuff that's lighting you up and bringing you energy, do more of that, and it'll put you on a really good path and trajectory for sure.
I definitely want to ask you on the business side of things when we think about that. I love it. The green, yellow, red kind of litmus test. I'm definitely going to ask you later on when we get onto the business side of like what are those few things that might be red? Because I for a fact have one thing that has been a red for years, and that's been um, not delegating work, but more so um, managing people from a very junior level all the way to a senior level person. Um, so definitely want to get maybe we dive into that a little bit on the business side of our talk track, because I'm kind of battling with that as well right now on how to um, not completely avoid the red, but do it in a way that becomes more yellow, so it's a little bit more energizing, and then hopefully find a way that it becomes a green area for me, something that is one of um, the things that gets me up in the morning. So let's come back to that. Definitely I wanted to ask you, kind of in the same vein of like things that energize you. I know you've been going through some struggles with your Achilles. I just wanted to check in. How are you doing? How's the week been as far as either recovering or anything else around just yeah, kind of exercise and all
Yeah,
that.
let's see, the last 2 weeks, it feels like forever ago, since the last episode in some regards, and in other ways, it feels like it was yesterday. But I'd say overall, since the last episode, good news is took the Aircast boot that I was wearing off, 3 weeks of that. So it's actually it was a small win in the sense that I was able to keep it on for 3 weeks and stay pretty regimented to it. So that was in and of itself a big win because that's the longest period in a long time where I haven't have gone without like running or doing more strenuous activity using my legs and ankles and feet. So that was a pretty big win. And then the secondary win was that my Achilles is feeling a lot better and have definitely have some scar tissue and stuff going on in there because I can kind of feel it still. But the good news is now just walking and doing light activity, riding a bike and things like that, I'm not getting any real big swelling or pain after it, which is a huge win because or early on when I had the injury, it was um, still probably trying to heal and inflamed, and then I would keep aggravating it, and so it'd be in pain. But now I'm not in pain anymore. Just notice that there's definitely some stuff going on that you can feel down there, but not in a painful way. So just I think from here it'll be low key activity for 3 more weeks, just trying to keep minimal amount of strain on it to let it continue to start now gaining strength and do some PT recovery type activities, and also some massage therapy to break up the scar tissue, get that moved out, and yeah, but I think I'm hopeful by kind of June 1st that I'm at least able to start light jogging on it again and doing more of the strenuous movements that I used to do in a lighter fashion initially, and just kind of keep ramping it up in probably 3 to 4 week increments. So yeah, thanks for asking on that front. And it's been exciting and interesting managing a new forms of trying to get exercise and cardio and all of that while balancing basically trying to stabilize the ankle and the Achilles. So definitely found some new areas and things, and went back to changing workouts back to some older school, what I would call workouts that I haven't done in a long time. So it was kind of a neat new experience for me and opened up some new pathways and new doors. So all in all, yeah, definitely got some silver linings out of all that, and coming back more motivated and grateful than ever before to have the opportunity to keep working. So
Oh yeah, man. Sounds
yeah,
like good progress.
thanks. And how about you with your eye and running and activities, and how's that progress going?
Better than ever. The eye is doing great. I got the okay to resume normal kind of exercise, regular activities. Um, so, truth be told, I probably went a little too hard that first week, but nothing bad happened. But I was just so excited. I just couldn't, that unbridled like desire to just get back out there.
Yeah.
But it's been just a joy to have something that's so important to me handed back to me. So while we're on the topic, I want to give a quick shout out to one of my guys, David Cheung. He just ran the Brooklyn Half Marathon today and he smashed it. I think he clocked in unofficially at like an hour and 50 minutes, which is pretty remarkable. He's been putting a lot of training in. So he's one of the guys that, um, as part of like my accountability group, or we're running together in the upcoming New York City Marathon. So was awesome to see just like the amount of training and consistency that he's put behind his training to actually show and to show results on a race day. That was super awesome to see and then really motivating to see as well. But yeah, having exercise given back to me, it's been life changing. It really has. Just it's insane. I mean, it's not something that I didn't know about, but having it taken away from you for a month
Hmm.
and reintroducing it just in a better mood. Um,
Oh yeah.
Again, it kind of breaks up my days, and I think we've
Hmm.
talked about this, but I love to look at my days at like as three parts,
Hmm.
and I have like these um, kind of core activities that propel me in each of the three parts of the day, whether it's QT, like scripture reading and meditation in the morning, and then running in the afternoon, and then, having dinner and connecting with my wife over dinner. There's like these few things, and running is definitely a big piece of that. So I feel like I've been very, uh, even more productive in the last couple of weeks, and it couldn't have come at a better time because things are getting busy in the best way possible, and it just feels like I got one of my superpowers back.
Oh yeah, I can totally relate to that. I mean, the exercise as a critical piece of your lifestyle and just everything for balancing it out. I feel the same exact way, and I was kind of fortunate enough to where I was able to still at least get some form of activity. And a few things that I took away from my experience were two big ones. One is that it doesn't always have to be all or nothing. So I don't, there's probably a lot of people out there, and you might have experienced this before, where I used to be in the mind frame and mindset of, if I can't go out to the physical gym or I can't go out for a run, then it's not really working out. So why do it at all? And I'm reading Atomic Habits right now. James Clear, awesome, awesome book. Highly recommend it. And a few of the different pieces in there talk to the same topic of like, just becoming the person who instead of having to do this like mega workout every day, it's just being the person who doesn't miss a workout, whether it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, as long as you're doing it over every day. That consistency over time is compounding, because when you put up a big zero, a goose egg on the scoreboard, that is a bigger detriment than just at least notching something and getting a point on the board, right? So, one big takeaway for me that I've been working on really hard is just being the person who is consistent and works out every day, and not the person who has to have some mega crazy workout. And if for me, it might look like a 15-minute yoga class at home, or some type of recovery, or even a little YouTube hit workout at home because our schedule's crazy, the girls are sick, whatever it might be. That's okay. And if you can keep that streak going, then that is the valuable piece of consistency compounded over time. And he actually talks about Jerry Seinfeld, where he had a calendar on his wall, and I think he still does it every day. It's basically like write a joke every single day, no matter what the case is, whether it's good, garbage, doesn't matter. It's just simply doing it habitually every single day over time, and you will automatically compound that over time and get better. So, big one there. And then related to that one is don't have don't repeat something, or don't do it twice. So don't miss twice. You can let yourself miss, put up, sometimes life happens, right? And you're going to put up a goose egg. You're going to miss a day where you can't work out, whatever the case might be. But don't let it go into 2 days, 3 days, and beyond. On Basically, don't do it twice in a row. And so on that second day, kind of recover, get back into it, and then get your streak going again. And that's how you will build that consistency further over time, and have the mindset of like, okay, sometimes life throws you a curveball. That's okay. Reset and just don't let it repeat, and get yourself out of that kind of what could turn into a rut, or another new habit that forms that's more of a negative or a lower value habit. Just get yourself right back into the mix of your positive habit, going to the gym, whatever it might be. So two two kind of big takeaways for me that were directly applicable as I was going through this experience, and really drove it home as I was reading the book. And the timing was kind of ironic given everything going on around us right now.
And it's not shocking to see such a big kind of correlation between fitness and business, but sometimes even a causal relationship between the two. Because everything that you just described, I find that you're trying to just build discipline. The discipline to come back if you missed a day, the discipline to do something, at least something, if you can't do the whole thing. Those are all, of course, you would want to do everything every single day at peak performance. But in fact, what I kind of strive for is the few moments where the few days that I have in a month where I am at that peak performance. I just maximize, my 8 hour day, my 5 hour day, however many days I'm working that day. I just felt like I was at my peak, but that's sprinkled around like multiple days of like, just, this, that, and the other just isn't really working the way that you're struggling through things. And that's just a perfect kind of parallel to how your fitness journey is. You're not going to be feeling the best every day. I mean, people with kids, parents with kids, you're not going to get the best sleep every day. You're not going to have that same time block every day. There's so many variables and factors that are going to pull you away from having that perfect, week of getting everything done and getting all your workouts in. But it all builds habits, and habits really build discipline. So, um, the other thought that I think my wife uses this phrase a lot is consistency over intensity. She does that a lot, especially when, someone's starting out in a journey. They're so amped up. You see that's a lot. Obviously, the most obvious thing is the classic New Year's resolutions that everybody has. You come out firing out of the gates, but there's something about being more consistent than being intense about what you're trying to attain or achieve, and that compounding effect, like you mentioned, it'll start showing.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Small wins compounded over time yield bigger results. One potential peak intense investment, which then fizzles out, could actually be net zero or negative overall in the end, you don't really form that consistency piece, the habits and discipline there. So yeah, it's I agree, and the other last piece there around how fitness and life, I would say, tie together, but also heavily with your a business. If you're an entrepreneur and running your own business, is my business coach talks a lot about, he calls it belt buckles and bank accounts. And essentially you're the best version of yourself, the most confident version of yourself, the best feeling and looking of yourself if you're working out, you're fit, you're healthy. And there's so many different aspects to that, both mentally, physically, from your personal image wise. But if you're in your power from working out and feeling really good about yourself, then that energy, that frequency is going to go out into your business as well. And so it's really hard to have one without the other. And I think that there are certainly examples of people out there who maybe aren't the most healthy, who have accomplished really amazing things. However, I think if you were to look at the average of whatever it is, whoever is the master of their sport, their business, their activities, that average actually probably more centers around people who are heavily focused on health and wellness and also invested in their business. So I think they go hand in hand, and it's hard to decouple those two just for all the different aspects that are required to do either one independently. When combined, it's really powerful.
Awesome. Well, look, I mentioned one thing before when we get into the business side of things. I'd love to start there and then would love to hear any updates you have around Obnovit. But maybe we can start with that question that I had before around green, yellow, red. Um, I think this is just really top of mind for me right now, with my first 1099 hire. And how one of the things when I started out in my business that I promised myself was let's leave the things that drained my energy at the door and only focus on the things that bring me energy. I think I was being very selfish with my time at that juncture. Um, and I went kind of full head on by as far as selling the deals, doing the deals, and it was all just me, no other people supporting. But now I'm at that point where though managing a team. Well, let me take a step back. What drained me wasn't necessarily managing teams. What really drained me was being responsible for the growth, both personally and professionally, which is kind of ironic because that's what we're talking about now. But that aspect of being in a corporate environment and a team, that I think doing it for the better part of 8 to 10 years, certainly drained me. I had a little bit of burnout, but now I'm getting back to a place where I'm not necessarily, hiring junior level folks and kind of helping them grow in their careers. So I think what drained me in the corporate world, I'm still leaving at the door. It's not something that I'm introducing into my business. But who knows? Maybe that is something that will happen in the next 6 to 12 months. Never say never. Um, but now that I have a 1099 worker, this idea of, it's not just me. There is delegation now. There is more internal organization, internal infrastructure. It's definitely giving me some flashbacks of like what I used to do. But again, it's not necessarily helping this person grow in their career. Um, to the fullest extent. She's a very, very kind of high level. She's very experienced. Um, but when you mentioned the green, yellow, red litmus test, it just reminded me of how I've had that kind of internal dialogue with myself this week around. Okay, I have a person on board now. It's going to bring out some old muscle memories, and let's keep a good pulse on things. If it truly is draining, then let's make sure that I'm again creating this business that revolves around a life that I want, not revolving my life around this business. So yeah, with all that said, all I did was babble to give you some time to think about something that is a red for you. And maybe if you do have it, if you don't, that's totally fine. But if you do, how were you able to kind of navigate that and recategorize that to something in the yellow or even in the green?
Yeah, so I'll give a two-parted response there in the sense that go quickly over a few red things for me and then circle back on and parlay that into how your the things that are red for you and maybe some ideas and thoughts for yourself as well as others out there. And so part one here will be things that are red for me are a lot of the admin paperwork, the first like, well, let's call it the middle 80% of doing things. So in business, I always talk about the three major pillars for growth or pieces for growth. We have marketing, sales, and delivery. Delivery, I think of everything that's encompassed in delivering whatever your final product is. And for me, the parts, some of the reds are in that delivery piece over time, similar to you after doing it for 10 plus years. I realized that, like, wow, I don't really enjoy anymore starting something from scratch and sitting down and like building out a model that we have to do to run for an analysis or whatever the case might be. I just like the initial 10% where it's like, here's probably the top three ideas, and then give it to somebody more junior. They go build it out, they evaluate, come back to me with what their thoughts are. I then take kind of the last 10, 15%, check it, make sure it's right, and that I agree with it. And then we can put that out as our final product. So I've been doing that with some different folks that I work with on my extended team. And that has gone really well for me because they're able to do a lot of the heavy lifting and they're much more efficient and effective at it. And then I'm able to come in and really do the higher value, more challenging, tailored piece to fit the client's needs. And that's been a successful formula for us so far. We've had, our little trip ups where maybe my contractor isn't doing things to the full extent of what I would necessarily want, but I'm able to give feedback. And then we kind of just keep going through this iterative loop to make things better. So I'd say that was one of the things when I first started out that I was not, that was a bit more red for me, was just doing all the tedious in engineering world. There's a lot of paperwork and tedious tracking of different things and variables and a lot of, yeah, really just paperwork. Honestly, it's just transcribing values, making sure everything is right on the paperwork side of things. And I had just gotten to the point where it's like, oh, I've done so much of that. I don't mind getting into details, but I really enjoy and add the most value getting people started on something, giving them the right direction and train tracks to go down. And then at the end, reviewing it and kind of making it go, making that work product be next level for our clients. That's going to differentiate what we do versus what some other company's going to do. So I think that's the biggest one there. A second piece is obviously around all the back end stuff in a business, bookkeeping, and gosh, out for me, hours tracking and receipt tracking, expense management, travel booking, all of that. And so we actually are engaged now to with a company who will provide us with an executive assistant on a month to month basis. And we're going to be
Nice.
offloading a lot of the red stuff that I've got. So we're ramping up for that, which is interesting and exciting and nerve wracking all at the same time. But going to start out with people who have seen us and listened to our other podcasts and recordings know that I'm a big Dan Martell fan and kind of use him as my guide for business and even in some ways life. And so in his book, Buy Back Your Time, there's a big piece in there about having the first rung on the hiring ladder is an assistant, and whether it's a VA or an EA, virtual or executive assistant. So we're going to that first rung. And the whole point there is right out of the gate, the thought process and really the ideal state from the book and his methodology is as an business owner, you really shouldn't be managing your inbox for emails and you shouldn't be managing your calendar right out of the gate. And those definitely take, I realized over the last month, take a ton of time coordinating meetings and managing our family calendar as well as the business calendar. So we're going to start offloading those items so that I can then focus in. I'll be able to do a little bit more on the bookkeeping side and then transfer over more of that stuff, expense management, travel over to our executive assistant as we build trust. So those are my part one, two pieces there about reds and things that I have. And then, real quick on the last part there about for you, what I heard was training and mentoring and handing off work and doing the communication piece uh, to get the finalized work product that you really want out of somebody, as well as probably training them up on your work processes, how to do certain things over time, are maybe a little bit more of a drain for you. And I'll also go back to Dan's book, Buy Back Your Time, and he has a great chapter in there around what he calls the camcorder method, which I think is more relevant now than ever before. And the first part of it being everything that you do, record it. So now, if you're working virtually, that looks a lot like a Zoom call or a Teams call or a Google Meet call, recording that, transcribing it. So they have that right out of as a baseline. Plus, there's Loom and other recording softwares to go through your work process and kind of have stream of consciousness while you're doing something. And now there's this whole nother level with AI. And I was sitting in a master class this week on AI for small businesses. And you can now take those transcripts and videos, build out a custom GPT that is Sam's brain. And I'd love to talk about this more here in a little bit after we get out of this piece, but we'll come back to it. But basically, train Sam's brain and make a GPT that is Sam and keep making that, refining it over time with your meeting transcripts and all of that. And then before you know it, you can then use a link to that GPT, give it to your personnel, and then instead of them having to ask you every time, they just talk to your GPT first. If the GPT is giving them weird results or something and it's not aligned, then they can come to you. But basically, I was thinking about this week, and you can make out of training calls, recording stream of consciousness as you're doing work. You can essentially make a live wiki of Sam's brain now and use that as a first 80% of what a new employee might need. And so it's about to get really awesome in so many ways. But I had that thought about when you were talking about it, of not only recording and having the Loom video, and I think there's another software out there called Scribe where it'll track what you're doing and it'll write an SOP using AI, but the software does it and it'll write an SOP for you, and that's great, right? But we're almost to the point now where you can clone yourself and give it in the form of a GPT for a new employee. Insane, but that's where the world's going.
It's pretty nuts. I think there's a lot there for anyone who knows that they're going to hire employees, 1099s, like that's really valuable. And I'll also even say this: at the beginning of your business, get into a habit of putting pen to paper or typing or using dictation or AI to create standard operating procedures. Like you don't think about that stuff way in the beginning. At least I didn't. In fact, when I started creating my SOPs was when I had it was namely around like big projects and audits that I had to do at the beginning of engagements. Basically, where I'm, I guess, sort of onboarding a client, but more so me auditing a client's website and web presence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I found myself whenever I had to do the next one and then the next one, there was so many mental calories that I burned rethinking about, all right, what did I have to do first? Because the order in which I did a few things actually cascaded down well, or really didn't. So I was like, screw this. I'm wasting so much time. Let me put an SOP together. And all of those SOPs that I put together over time has now made it super simple for me to onboard um, my first my first 1099 worker. Um, but yeah, it definitely hasn't been draining. And just to clarify, just for the future when we talk more about this, I think what really, and I was really unclear about this, admittedly, I think what drained me was trying to help people grow in their SEO career. And there's probably a whole different episode that we can film on this, but like it could be from the get go of like pre-hire screening. Maybe that person was just not the right fit for the description of the role. Maybe it was bad managerial style. Maybe the personalities weren't a match. Bad communication style. There's probably loads of reason why it ended up being such a draining experience. And this wasn't the case. This was like 20% of like the people that I managed. But that 20% was really draining. Um, Within the context of my business, I'm not hiring junior level people. I'm actually hiring like very senior level people. Luckily, like the margins work. But even so, it's not that, like I want to help these people that I bring on board. I want to help them grow because there's so much change in the industry that I'm advancing my own knowledge and my own skill set that ultimately has to pass down anyway. So, yeah, I think that kind of managerial stuff will always exist when there's any two people working together. But yeah, going back to SOPs, gosh, it like that so important. It really saves boatload of time for not only the person executing the work, but future employees that you want to onboard. Gosh, it saves a ton of time, and now even more time can be saved with using Scribe. Um, I love Loom. I think I sent you one Loom, but like it's awesome. You get like a little picture of yourself. Video in screen, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, just leverage what we've got. I'm gonna practice what I preach too, because yeah, even though I have my SOPs, I think a video version of it would be more digestible and more easy to absorb. So whether that's Zoom, I'll report back whatever I end up using. I'll definitely share what I found to be the easiest for my line of work, where you have like thousands of tabs open, doing marketing tactics and all that stuff. So excited to see what I come up with, and yeah, I'll definitely share at that time. And we could definitely dig deeper into it because that thing that you said about cloning myself and having my own GPT, it's it's so possible, and I think that's what's so freaky. Um, like it's so possible. Like we could probably spend one Saturday and then like get to an MVP of
Hmm.
ask Sam
Very much
AI.
so. Yeah. Yeah. There's, I think a lot of the tip of the spear businesses right now are just thinking about that. So it's like the perfect time. But yeah, I have been reframing after sitting in on a master class. I'm probably going to partake in a specific small business class around AI and development and deployment. And the biggest reframe I got this week was really just instead of thinking of ChatGPT standalone, just creating a little new chat in there. The most of the people that you talk to who even are aware of it are like just using it almost like a newer version of Google. And it's not really going to be that great. I mean, it can be if you add a little more context, it can be better than a Google search, I think. But the real power lies in training, creating your own account, paying for it, and then starting to train either through projects or through GPTs, starting to train that with very specific instructions and very specific engineering, what they're calling prompt engineering now in AI engineering, basically designing and training that GPT to be or do whatever you want it to do. And then it will get very good at that. And it will at times execute better than a human could because the memory is essentially infinite compared to what we have. And I mean, I guess in reality, in our brain, we have almost near infinite power and memory in our brains, but the ability to tap into it at any given time, whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., or if your kid is screaming and you're trying to do something, like it doesn't have any restrictions on it, whereas the human brain is influenced by a lot of other factors. And the power there is really the way have been thinking about it lately is like I'm going to approach a problem or I'm having a challenging situation, whether it be personal, professional, whatever the case might be. Who is like the person that you want to sit down with and ask them as an expert and the person you would want to, that you know you never, probably never could talk to directly about it, but who is that person? So if it's in business, it might be whatever your person in business might be, or Ray Dalio, or anyone along those lines. There's a ton of them. Warren Buffett, investing, right? Warren Buffett, that's an easy example. At home, if there's a specific relationship coach or somebody who's very prominent in the religious sector that you're in, and all of those things, that you can train that GPT based on YouTube videos, transcripts from the YouTube videos, which you can get very easily just by clicking a button. You can actually train it and give you instructions to then converse with it like you're talking to that person, and it will give you the feedback, and really all you're doing is just helping giving yourself and bring the ideas and organize the thoughts in your head in a more specific way that you can take action on and improve your life. So
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I think there's that's one thing that I do for one of my clients, two of my clients actually, where we're basically leveraging AI as a virtual assistant, right? Culling through data, keeping note of that in its memory bank, um, and synthesizing that information for you whenever you need it. It's whether it's for your own business, onboarding employees, or in my case, I wanted to understand how real customers were talking about this software that my client provides. And it was, man, like 3 years ago, to get the information that I got in about 30 minutes would have probably taken like 3 weeks,
mhm.
maybe 3 months. But we were able to just scrape, not even scrape, we just gave the URLs for like all of the reviews that were left in Capterra,
Mhm.
in G2, which is like a software review website.
Mhm.
It dropped in like 100 links to all of the review URLs. And now I can chat with it at any point. So when I'm working on, a project that requires some customer voice, like real words that people are using, real pain points that this software is solving for, it's incredible how quickly we can get exactly what we need from an incredibly large amount of resources and data and sources. So just think about, I think what we're trying to get at right now is this just overall model of ingesting data now becomes so easy for the average person, right? We don't need kind of just need a laptop. You could do it even on your phone.
Mhm.
Um,
And you don't
but we
have to
have,
know how to type either. You can use
you
on
know,
ChatGPT, you can use voice dictation, and it will, or not even voice dictation. You can actually talk to it. There's like a handful of different voices and personalities that it's pre-programmed with. We use Saul. Another person uses, I forget the other one. It'll come back to me. But yeah, there's a couple different ones. You can customize it for the voice and the name. And yeah, you can just talk to it, stream of conscious, and you can talk to it. And even for the case that you're saying, right, you could just talk to it and then it will give you the visual in on your phone or on your computer.
yeah. I will say let's definitely use it responsibly. I found one good practice that I've implemented in any um, engage or interaction with a large language model is to ask it where it got its answer from,
Yeah.
even in a more controlled environment. When you're using source material that you fed, files that you've attached, I always think with any new technology you need to approach it with a grain of salt, probably a bigger grain of salt when it comes to AI, just because the massive kind of um, yeah, it's just so powerful that I think we need to be even more careful with it.
Yeah.
But it has been a very interesting to ask it, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever, where it got its information from. Because sometimes it really um, puts puts the large language model like on its heels, because it'll kind of revert its answer again, like, oh, this information was from 2024. It's a little outdated. Sorry, let me get you some more updated an answer with more updated source material. So I think that's just a good general practice as the level of hallucination gets better and better.
Mhm.
But we have to use it responsibly. And that's the whole idea of using AI. There needs to be uh, human review, and if we don't, then it could be a pretty dangerous road.
Yeah, yeah, a few things on that. One is, yeah, definitely got to be a human in the loop to check and make sure that whatever it's outputting matches what you want. Like even for just like a workout, if you're like, "Hey, can you make this workout for me?" Which it's not going to do a good job at that. It will give you something, but if you're just going in and chatting with it randomly, again, that's not the power of it. And it's going to do an okay job, and you might be able to get there through a couple back and forths. But like just out of the gate, it's going to give you a workout, and you're going to be like, oh no, that workout did not match what I want, or oh no, that meal does not match my preferences or what I want. And so it's the same thing in business. You need to review what it is and be like, yes, that fits what I want, and I can tailor it from there and clean it up and use it as something that gets me through my writer's block, whatever block you might have. It gets you started. It might get you 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 95% of the way there. But yeah, there's definitely got to be that human in the loop and somebody who's knowledgeable about it to use it responsibly. And then the other piece that I got from the mastermind this week, which was insane, is big. This is big. This is a big tip. Two things here. Data privacy. Okay. A lot of people talk about this and data privacy. I did not know this. And I was using ChatGPT very cautiously. I don't really ever ingest or give it anything really private. And so, but a big unlock here is everybody's going to want to listen to this. First of all, you need to pay for ChatGPT if you're going to use it. Because if you don't pay for it, then it's basically just an interface. You can't control what you're putting in and where that privacy is. The second part is once you pay for it, $20 a month, go into your settings, go to data control, and there's a section in there that says improve the model for everyone. Turn that off. Because if you have that on, which it's on by default, and it's kind of ambiguous about what exactly it's trying to say there, but when you have that on, everything you feed into it becomes knowledge of the LLM and is essentially out there on the internet. So, for example, if you were working on a patent idea and you wanted to just bounce it through ChatGPT to figure out how to get that patent through, which would be a great thing to use it for, if you weren't paying for it, guess what? That idea is now out there on the internet and can be found. The reverse of that is you pay for ChatGPT, you go in, you turn it off, you're now having a private conversation, and the LLM, the brain of ChatGPT, is not getting trained on the information you're feeding it. It is just referencing things and pulling it in. It's not pushing it back out. So that is a huge thing that I learned this week. That's a big unlock. And the other piece is if you are doing sensitive things, the hands down, the most secure LLM out there is Claude. So you can go look, and they are, I think, HIPAA, SOC 2, they've got all of it, and they don't use your data to train the model. So that being said, Claude isn't great at everything. ChatGPT is like a Swiss Army knife, and Claude is a bit more nuanced and better for tone of voice and stream of consciousness, mimicking you and understanding your personality and different things, especially along the lines of writing. And then for web searching and things, Perplexity is by and far one of the best. And then, there's others, Gemini, Grok, and Copilot, which a lot of folks, I haven't even dove in really much on any of those, but yeah, few big ones there. The eye openers for me, yeah, Claude with the most secure and safe one, and the corollary there is like if you, whether for your business or your personal life, are comfortable putting things like your credit card statements, your tax information up into Google Drive, then it's really no different than putting it into Claude. And the other piece being ChatGPT, pay for it, go into your data control settings, and turn off the feature that says improve the model for everyone. And that will certainly
Damn.
help with data security and privacy on that end.
I am going to go turn that off. That's such a great tip. Not that I was putting in any sensitive information, but why not? Like on the off chance by accident you
Yeah.
do, search for something. Um, wow. And I will say with that paid subscription, you also get access to creating your own custom GPTs,
Yep.
which kind of goes back to I think the superpower of having these large language models at our disposal is kind of curating specific interactions and desired outcomes in a more repeatable fashion versus just basically using it as another form of getting an answer to a question over and over and over again.
Yeah, 100%. And I think last thing here on the AI front, because we could probably go for another 2 hours on this. And I think it's going to become a very prominent part of the discussions with the way that you and I are heading with it in our businesses. And that's a good lead into this piece is I am definitely seeing two layers or two lenses with AI. And it's very wild. The first lens is how AI can make your life better, whether it's just for personal and business use. It can just make you so much more efficient and effective. So there's this whole thing around like utilizing it for personal space, and that personal piece is all the different parts that make up your person. The second part and the second lens, the second view of this is how AI transforms your specific niche and your profession and what you do for your career, because that piece is coming as well. And I'm in this intersection, right, of like how does this all work, and it's becoming a little bit more clear to me. And as it's solidified, I'll share it. And so today's big thing for me is AI can become any specific, very important, prominent person that you would want to talk to, the expert. And it can also be an expert version of yourself and to help train other people and be a wiki, whether for your business or just you interacting with anybody else. It's wild. But this is where we're heading. And this is just the beginning of it. Like it's going to become wildly um, more adopted, used, and make things that much more effective. So
Wow. That's making my mind run for sure.
yeah, it's a little bit of what was that movie where it's like you're inside of oh man, I'll have to bring it back for the next episode. But it was basically like a movie on what was it? Inception. That was the movie, and
Mm.
this wild thought about how things are layered and almost like nested, matrixed in a way. Like to me, it feels like Matrix is another good one, like Inception and Matrix, of like how this is going to interact and become an integral part of life. And what I see, obviously, there's a lot of risks, but the biggest upside, one of the biggest upsides is you are now able to unleash the highest potential of yourself because you're not held back by any particular skill that would be a limiting factor. And an example of that might be somebody who wants to write a book, but maybe they're blind, or maybe they never learned to type, or they never learned to write, but they can speak. And now you could set up with AI and talk through that entire thing and create your own book and send it for publishing with really minimal people in the loop on that. Obviously, you'd have people helping with copyright and proofing and all the different things associated with it. But that person now is no longer limited by the amount of capacity or skills that they have to type on a keyboard. Um, these entry level barrier tasks are no longer as much of a barrier Do you have to apply yourself? Yes. Do you have to have a thirst for knowledge and understanding and learning? Yes. But the speed at which you can acquire those skills, I mean, another great example for me is making a website. There's things like Lovable and Gamma out there now. I can create a website and it will do all the coding for me. And it's not going to be perfect, but it gets me 80% of the way there and it programs it all. I would have never been able to do that 2 years ago. And so right now, programming is no longer the limit. It's really just the finishing touches of connecting databases, hosting it, figuring all that piece of it out. But building a website is not really the programming side of it is no longer the limiting skill set for that. So
Right.
crazy.
I think I think what's going to be interesting is like this kind of like balance of having checks and balances, right? Um, because I can see I think Lovable is a great example. The speed in which you get from point A to point B has just exponentially increased. You can get to a website in a matter of an hour, maybe less.
5 minutes. I've done
it's
a live demo
it's
where
insane,
you can create
insane.
a prompt with AI and then put it in there and it will program it up in 5 minutes. It's insane. And it will be a
Right.
damn good like I did like a women's like high end fashion boutique. Like it looks so good. It's mostly functional. Obviously, your payment account and the Stripe connection and all the if you had SKUs of products and all that, it's not going to do all that right out of the gate. But you can get to a baseline
Right.
website in less than 5 minutes. It's insane.
Yep. I'm so curious when this becomes more and more and more mainstream because I think you and I are in um like we're very forward thinking. I think we talk to people that are thinking about this and there's plenty of people that are far ahead of where we're at. But I think general population mainstream hasn't really got up to this yet. Or I mean, even like enterprise companies, like the big brands are probably talking about it, but it still hasn't like, been the top thing. Or yeah, so I think what I'm trying to say is there's still time for more checks and balances to be applied to a lot of these things. Because yeah, like I said, for Lovable, like there needs to be checks and balances to make sure that the websites that are created have the right foundation from so many different angles. Of course, like connecting databases
Mhm.
to it, like having that foundation is so incredibly important because if they release all these websites, but it's seriously difficult for any interactions to happen, then it's a very flawed
Mhm.
practice. Similar on like the SEO side of things, if it's a homegrown website that is very inaccessible to web devs to make these custom changes, then I think it's a very
Mhm.
flawed system. So I'm not saying that's the case with these websites with Lovable. I in fact think those are probably their top like challenges to solve for as they churn out these websites or have the technology to be able to churn out these websites. But there's so many other use cases that we're not even thinking
Mhm.
about, right?
Oh yeah.
How do we redesign a website that has been designed by Lovable? Is there any friction points
Totally.
there? But all these checks and balances are going to happen over time. And it's going to be awesome to kind of ride this wave together and always have like a critical thinking mind whenever we see a new technology, because nothing's going to be perfect at
Oh
first
yeah.
go, but it's going to get incredibly good, incredibly fast, which is the crazy part about all of this.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't remember if I said this on the last episode, but I think I did, where the CEOs of a lot of these companies like Perplexity and OpenAI and Anthropic, which is Claude's company, the parent company for Claude, their teams of developers are looking at projects in 3 month cycles, which is like this is just mind blowing speed of like how you can execute and do that. And these are smaller teams too compared to what it would have traditionally been, and the speed at which you can execute now is just insane. So it's a serious advantage for those that are out there thinking about it. And I would say if anybody is interested in that more, feel free to reach out on any of the platforms for me, especially on Instagram at Shane Chalupa, and we yeah, you can also reach us at the Growth Index podcast and would be happy to engage and talk more about it because it's just going to become uh, something where the knowledge is power for sure.
Awesome. Well, look, I think we're just about at time here. I know we didn't really get to delve in too much around business updates, but maybe we could do some like quick top three bullet points on how the business is going, what's been going on, and we can bid adieu
Yeah.
to the audience.
Hot take here. Quick
Yeah.
updates on my side. Yeah, we've got been proposal heavy this month. Also, in got a few projects in execution. Had our two biggest proposals come in, and we're now kind of in what I would call like a true sales cycle, in the sense of we're trying to close the deal. One of them, we're one of two bidders on it, and looking pretty neck and neck race. So hoping that one goes our way. And then another one that we're getting early in. We're breaking it into phases and trying to really help the client see the value and understand the budget constraints and what they're asking for. So, yeah, it's getting to be exciting on that front. And I already mentioned that we're getting ready to bring on an EA, which we're going to use both for the business, for Mary and I, as well as for personal calendar and coordination and management. So that'll be something as we get into it. I'll be happy to share how that's going with everybody and tips and tricks and lessons learned for sure. And man, we talked a lot about different takeaways around habits and things. But the last little piece here, I've been alluding to it a little bit on Instagram, is I'm another big Jen Sincero fan with "You Are a Badass," and I mention it a lot, but about the guy who quits his job and then got hit by a bus, and he was luckily okay. But the universe has this way of really, I think in her book, she says, kicking you in the pants when you take a big leap. We got a bit of a kick in the pants this last week. So Mary's had a little skin rash going on for about a year. She did the right thing, went to the dermatologist a year ago, and came back, nothing major. It stayed around, so we went and saw a specialist about it, and she got some blood work back, and so now we got to go see an oncologist to see if these blood test results are indicative of anything on the kind of like lymphoma side of things. So big, a lot of emotion, a little bit of a kick in the pants, but yeah, we're hopeful, and um, there's a piece around this one that goes to the skin, and it's actually not terrible in the sense that it can actually be pretty slow growing and not necessarily that impactful for your life. So we're just yeah, hoping, waiting on to get out to the oncologist, and then we'll go from there and take it as it comes. But wanted to share that because yeah, there's there's lots of things in life, but when you have health things come up, those become very, very prominent very fast. So and also for anybody out there who might be going through a struggling moment, that you're not alone. There's lots of people out there with lots of things going on, and yeah, there's people there to support you. And yeah, we're just grateful for everything that we've got so far, and hoping for positive results in the sense of cleared, and looking at this one specific type of cancer that is not too dramatic or impactful on life in general.
Oh my goodness. Look, I'm so sorry. I think there's power um, in sharing. I know it's hard to do. The burden, like metaphorically, gets spread to other shoulders, so it's easier to bear in a way. But moreover, I think for myself, and I'll put this um, on my wife as well, but we'll absolutely be praying for you guys diligently throughout the days and throughout the upcoming weeks for a really awesome prognosis, one that you couldn't even imagine. Um, and man, hearts are with you, man, with Mary and everyone involved. I know it's not easy. With my own bout of the recent kind of health things, this is nowhere in the same even arena, but I know that feeling that just that kick in the pants that you were talking about. It's no one prepares you for that, especially when it's health related. So sorry, sorry to hear that, man. I know it's probably the hardest thing to deal with. But man, our hearts are with you. And yeah, and I'm not saying it just lightly. I believe in the power of prayer. Maybe there's a reason why that I've been challenged so much this week around my faith to build it up. And the whole mantra this week for me was to um, revisit my why for my business and my life.
Hmm.
And it's all kind of coming back to this notion of to better serve those around me. And perhaps this is one way that I can serve, although we're not physically close. Um, I can at least um, yeah, I can at least give my time throughout the day whenever I do pray and take a step back from things to give you some more of my time through prayer and all that for Mary specifically and for the rest of the family. So, man, thoughts are with you, hearts are with you, man, and yeah, we'll talk more. We'll talk more.
Thanks, I
Um,
appreciate that. And yeah, there's certainly a spectrum, and the dermatologist is a specialist in this area, and felt pretty confident about it being something that would be manageable for sure. So we're, like you said, very hopeful and positive around that, and so now it's just going through all the different tests to kind of confirm that and make that the status of where we're at. And yeah, the universe and the greater powers up there, God, if you want to look at it that way, definitely has a way of preparing you, and only will give you what you can handle. So we're fortunate and grateful that we're in a position where we've done so much work and spent so much time together that we're really in a position to take this on in the most positive way, and really want to, like you said, our why is always to help a ton of other people, not within our household, with our kids and our children and our family and extended family and friends, but really just for with the world. And I think our podcast is a lot of the same ethos and centered around that. And the only reason I share it, yeah, is not for, definitely don't want to have this be some type of sympathy fest, but more so around just shining as a lighthouse to let other people know who might be going through something similar or a hard time, that there's other people out there. Feel free to reach out, and the power of thought, prayer, and the frequency out there can definitely overcome anything. So we're happy and excited on that front. And yeah, just take every day. Don't take it for granted. Every moment is beautiful. Nothing's guaranteed. So don't waste a single moment.
Amen, brother.
Amen. All right.
All right, Shane. Thank you for the time.
Yeah. Likewise.
Talk more soon.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.